This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hello and welcome to the iRacing Esports Network and the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series presented by Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick and alongside me for today's action is Daniel Leet with Scott Newton on the cameras. We're here at sunny Barcelona. Daniel, it's a classic circuit. This is quickly emerging as a classic circuit with its fantastic bends of corners, and it's a really good round for this sixth race of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great to have the now Barcelona circuit on iRacing. For everyone who's been within sim racing for a long period of time, they're synonymous with this track over a multitude of different platforms. But presenting a really good opportunity, I think iRacing done a fantastic job in bringing what they have to the community. And I think we're going to be in for a really good treat tonight with the first of our 90-minute Enduros tonight.
Definitely, as Daniel says, 90 minutes of racing coming up for you. Of course, we'll now have 90 minutes at Bathurst. Just a quick word on that race from last time out. It was an incredible race. 3 safety cars, 45 minutes. Thank God it wasn't 90 minutes, otherwise we could have been there all day. But it was an incredible event that, no doubt, I think we're going to see a little bit more of a standard race today. Thankfully, the walls around this place aren't quite so nearby.
Yeah, the wall's probably the biggest thing that we saw issues with last time out at Bathurst, especially going over the top of Reed Park and down onto Skyline. So thankfully tonight, Catalunya, a lot more runoff for these drivers to at least recover these cars and fall back in behind the train without having any major delays. In the event there is a safety car though, the race stewards will no doubt bring that out. For those two that maybe not be familiar with the series, there is a no escape rule. So potentially for any drivers that are caught up in those issues, we're going to potentially see a safety car as a result of that as well.
Yeah, it could certainly be a possibility, but if anyone finds the wall around this place, they're going to do well, because there's plenty of gravel for these guys. So, the grid is up, thanks to Race Management System or Service, apologies for setting this all up for us. So it's Timothy Theben on pole position then, ahead of Nathan Herpatz. Shane Van Gisbergen starts alongside Justin Rougier on the second row of the grid. And it's Neil Pearson, Aidan Luthwaite, Adam Gardner, Jordan Cullis, Joshua Burden, and Michael Yip. Behind that, it's Leigh van der Berg, Jesse Butler, Dominic Mellett, Paul Woods, Adrian Block, Alex Court, Aaron Specchio, Nick Filippo, Betts Wilson, and Michael White. And that's the top 20 drivers. The rest of the drivers will go through for you now. 46 cars on the grid. Absolutely fantastic turnout once again. I mean, I've watched a couple of races so far this season, Daniel, and it seems mega competitive. I think previous seasons, there's kind of been one or two drivers who, if they're on the grid, they're most likely going to win. I'm looking at the grid today. I mean, you look at the top kind of 5 or 6 drivers. I mean, any of them could win. And you look even further down the field and you think they've won races in this series before as well. So it's really unpredictable what's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the series has grown in leaps and bounds over the last couple of seasons, really, and we're seeing a huge turn up of great drivers, the likes of Shane Van Gisbergen, real life supercar driver, Justin Rougier as well, Super 2 real life racer in Australia here. So really, getting some great interest from those types of parties, and the racing as always has been fantastic. Last season we saw a really good battle with the 4 GTs, maybe a little further down the field this time, and I think we do have one out there tonight, at least in the hands of Dave Clements. But all in all, the racing has been very, very competitive throughout the entire field.
So here we are then, 90 minutes of racing about to get underway at the Circuit de Barcelona, and we are getting ready. Beeben pulls away from the rest of the field. Patson and Pearson going side by side going into turn 1. Is there going to be any opportunity for either of them to get ahead by the time that they break before turn 1? Still going to be side by side. It's good for Beeben to perhaps pull away from the rest of the field. Pearson up 3 places already. An incredible launch from him. From the 3rd row of the grid it must have been. But he's already up into the top 2. Patson 3rd place. Rougier staying in 4th. Luthwaite gaining a place. Poor start for Gardner. Quick start for Yip. Up 3 places into 7th. And as I'm seeing at the moment, very few drivers dropping down big time, apart from Shane Van Gisbergen, who I don't believe took the start.
Yeah, not sure what happened there. Shane obviously would have been starting outside row 2 with Justin, a long way down the order. We'll keep an eye on that. Rougier, though, sitting still in the 4th position. Nathan Happett's, can't count him out. He'll be well up towards the front throughout the course of this one. Probably a big one for most of the viewers tuning in again, to keep an eye on Aidan Luthwaite. Been really, really strong in that RSR esports car as well, so look for him to make a really solid charge up throughout the field.
I guess Pearson managed to take pretty much the 2nd row of the grid start. Started in 5th place, however, because Van Gisbergen wasn't in front of him on the grid, was able to basically slot himself up 2 positions, and then even got a run into 2nd. So I'm sure he'll be getting a present later on, Van Gisbergen, from Pearson, because it's a comfortable 2nd place at the moment with Hubhats, the one under pressure from behind into the chicane for the first time they go. Could well be a few issues later on in the race there. Very tricky to go side by side as they are about to start their 2nd tour of this track. It's Beeben leading by 1 second already over Neil Pearson. Nathan Hubhats in 3rd place, a further 2nd behind. Not under too much pressure from Rougier, who's under pressure from Luthwaite, but not a big braking zone into turn 1. And this is a factor that we're going to see a lot, I think, today. I must say this Barcelona circuit in real life and on sim racing doesn't necessarily produce the most action-packed racing, just because it is tricky to overtake around here. We've got long straights, but at the end of each of these long straights, you've got barely any braking zones, and so to overtake is very tricky.
Yeah, and then also throw into the mix the long radius corners that we've got, especially as we watch the guys working their way through turns 2 and 3. They're really long times, hard to get those noses of the cars in. But it does present a few opportunities for some guys later on, potentially. Michael Whiting up on screen at the moment. Actually had a really good start, up 6 spots from where he started tonight, so finding himself up in 14th. Got Aaron Specchio in the Porsche just in front of him, so going to be a really solid battle between these two.
Nice start as well for Simon Black, moving up 12 positions. I don't think that was all on the race start. I think that was actually in the kind of 2nd half of the 1st lap. So nice work there. Lindsay Hobbs dropping down the order, was running in the top 30 positions. So it was probably just behind Michael Whiting, I believe, but has now dropped down into 39th place. Also issues for Chris Pallett, who had to come into the pits on the opening lap of the race. I also saw Wilkes drop down the order on the opening lap. But compared to Bathurst, we're all going very well at the moment. We are very pleased with that. Whiting failing to put too much pressure at the moment on the drivers ahead. As driver taking a little bit of an alternative route using the historic layout, the GP layout, of course, we're using today. Lutherwaite then versus Cullis. And I think this is Cullis actually moving ahead potentially of Lutherwaite. It's got much better momentum. Goes around the outside. Well, that was how you overtake around Barcelona. Must have been a poor exit from Lutherwaite. He's been overtaken in these early stages.
Yeah, a little uncharacteristic for him there. We saw him only a lap ago on the back of the Porsche Justin Ruggier and finds himself down an extra position. So I think the Ferrari, looking at the way the top of the standings are looking at the moment, it might be struggling a little bit out here, but we know the Ferrari comes good later on in the race as the tyres wear on. No surprise, we've still got the BMWs out front and taking up those first three spots. Tim Phoeben, Neil Pearson and Nathan Happett's starting to gain a little bit of an advantage at the moment. Great to see, though, Ruggier still sitting up that fourth spot with the Porsche out there, though.
Yeah, possibly the best sounding car on out of these GTs. Let us know which your favourite car of these guys are. Personally, I'm a Ford guy, and so I'm feeling a little bit sad. The Ford's never been massively competitive. It was a little bit a few months ago, last season. There's Nick Sanfilippo, my favourite driver, of course. Hence why he's driving that Ford. However, he's a little bit by himself at the moment, the 366 car. That might well be the place to be, though. Stay out of trouble. Of course, a couple of pit stops these guys are going to have to use, and well, not a massively high fuel consumption circuit place. It's probably about average, maybe a tiny bit higher than most of the circuits that we visit. When can we expect these guys to come into the pits first off?
Look, if we use last year or last season as a bit of a form guide for this, we saw a lot of drivers looking to split their runs up pretty equally, so about coming in every third of the race for a stop. We saw a few guys attempt a few ambitious ones and maybe come in one lap, do the compulsory stop and tyres, drop in the next lap, clear both of them. Sometimes paid off, not always, however. So it's going to be interesting to see what they want to do, especially now that we know we've got that tyre change to come in. Really solid battle down here for 10th and 11th. Lee Vandenberg coming under a lot of attack from Dominic Multi and Paul Wood there, and Wood actually gaining a position, finds himself now up in that 11th position.
Yeah, the 738 car doing very well. Remember, each of these, we've got 4 different classes, four different categories, so 4 different championships, there you go. We've got the pro drivers with the 9s up front, and then we've got the pro-ams with the 7s, and then the AMs with the 3s, and the rookies, the 1s at the start of their number. So keep an eye out for that one. But everyone racing amongst each other. There's plenty of different drivers from different championships, all battling one another. Just want to get as far as you possibly can. Gardner having to, well, he's kind of defending at the moment. He's already down 1 place from his start, is Adam Gardner. He's only 4/10 of a second ahead at the moment. However, I think he's going to be under too much pressure from Burden by the end of this straight. You've got to be probably within 1/4 of a second coming out of that final chicane. And this is a long pit straight round Barcelona. However, it's only enough for Burden to gain about 2/10 of a second. That's why he needs to be within about 1/4 of a second by the time he comes out of the chicane. Gardner very comfortable on that occasion. Mark Gretzel currently dropping down the order. He's had a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, pulling down just a touch, but we'll be able to recover as the course of this race goes on. Obviously 7 minutes in the books here, so still plenty of time for him to come back and get going. A little further up, Nathan Happett is starting to fall into the clutches now of Justin Ruggier in the OSR Porsche there. You can see them up on screen now. And surprising to see the Happetts not quite having the pace. We saw him very strong last time out at Bathurst, and maybe just struggling just a fraction here in these early stages.
They are starting to catch up a little bit now to Timothy Phoeben, who's just had a poor lap, in fact. Did a 42.53. If he did a 52.53, that would be very concerning. But he did a 42.53, which is slower than everyone, down to Adam Gardner in 8th place. So it must have been a small mistake, a slide. but it's kind of put everyone else on his tail. The slipstream effect not too strong around this bit. Obviously, it's always helpful. It might gain you a tenth or so, but it's not absolutely necessary for these guys to stay close. The gap currently between the top two, 7/10 of a second, so the gap might come down a little bit. If you want to find out what the gap is, of course, do check out our live timing. Should be in the description. Scott might even post it in the YouTube live chat as well, and you can see all the gaps, all the intervals between the drivers. You can see their last lap time. You can see the fastest lap time. You can see how many times they've pitted, when they pitted, their pit stop time, absolutely everything that you can ever want, and that is provided by SDK Gaming. Phoeben then 6/10 of a second ahead, so just maintaining that gap at the moment in the first part of this lap 6.
Yeah, Tim doing a really solid job here. The pace in that car about a tenth quicker than what we're seeing from Neil Pearson and the DPR racing BMW. But these two, very, very conservative. Pearson's been very good on the tyres over the course of the long run, consistent driving and able to hold the pace up there at the moment. Happett's still holding on to third, actually gaining by the looks a touch over Ruggier, and that's going to be a really solid battle later on as that starts climbing up. But just behind in that little group of 5, also Jordan Collis starting to close in as
here
well.
we go down the inside for, was that Happert's, I think, trying to get past. I don't think it quite works, but that was an ambitious move going into turn 10, and he very nearly managed to get the move done on Neil Pearson. So, brilliant.
Yeah, nearly getting that one done. Just keep an eye on that, because I wouldn't mind betting that he'll have another crack here. Maybe next time by, just setting up where he is a little bit stronger and where he's able to get those slightly better runs. And if you're able to get the run down through campus where we saw him there, you should be able to set himself up for another attempt, but has fallen a little bit off the tail now of Neil Pearson.
It has to regroup. Ruggier not too far behind either. Currently, there's the top 7, not more than 1 second between any of them. Gardner still a bit detached. Wonder how much pace Burden and Van der Berg have, because they seem a little bit bottled up. They could well join this front train of drivers. Maybe the train's a little bit harsh on Timothy Phelan. They're not being held up as such. They're all just in relatively close proximity. Pat certainly looks like the fastest guy, though, right at this moment. Back within half a second of the driver ahead. Brenton Hawkins running in 19th place. There's a few battles going on out here. Not any mega close overtakes at the moment, but they're all kind of lining up behind Aaron Specchio at the moment. That's Brett Wilson, Michael Whiting, and Brenton Hawkins.
Yeah, these guys have always been pretty close throughout the course of this season so far, and a lot of respect given. They know how each other operates, so they should be able to see a few moves later on through the course of the stint. Really surprised to see Specchio in the Porsche gaining a little bit of time advantage on these guys, and likewise Nick Sanfilippo there currently sitting up in that 15th spot, first of our Ford runners as well, so we'll keep an eye on his progress through the lap. But look at the pace of these midfield runners. They're down around the 143.6 comparative to the leaders at the moment, still sitting in the high 141, so a little bit off the pace at this point.
Track temperature, currently 34 degrees. It's getting cooler as well. It's 4:05 in the afternoon for these drivers. And it's a bit overcast at the moment, but of course, thanks to the iRacing change of the dynamic skies, means that we have different amounts of lights on the circuit at different points. Anyone who's driving the Bathurst 2 hours will know the pains of that, how you can be doing half the lap in overcast and all of a sudden your eyes have to adjust for the shining lights potentially around in other parts of the circuit. It was very much good fun. It let us know as well if how you did. Personally, I was top spec, and we crashed a couple of times. One wasn't, well, both of them weren't really on fault. But no, better luck for next year. But yeah, let us know how you guys did. You didn't take parts yesterday, did you, Daniel?
No, mate, no. Brake pedal not up to the standards required to put in a decent lap around Bathurst, so I figured probably best to sit that one out and leave it to the guys a little bit, or much quicker than I am. So we'll let that one go. Looks like we've got a few drivers starting to make their way back up through the field as well. Shane Van Gisbergen now down in 23rd, so he's gained quite a few spots after having his poor start, and he finds himself now in a bit of a battle there with, I think that's Reese Holters just behind. Next candidate for him, 5 seconds up the road, will be Simon Black. So Simon will be a good challenge for him to see his way through, but making forward progress nonetheless, which is good to see.
Could you have potentially got like a penalty, like a pit lane start from last week?
Look, it's potential. I didn't see him on the track last week, so it could be something carried over. We'll double check what that might have been, or whether it was a pit lane start. But yeah, he's certainly got a lot of work to do, and still plenty of time in the books to do it. Pass here to Adam Gardner, Lee Vandenberg, and those guys are working now on the back of the Josh Burden Fusion Sim Racing BMW. See Gardner trying to get into the mirrors, trying to find a way now past Josh Burden. Going to be very, very tricky position.
Yeah, that was Burden just gets him past, in fact. So finally he is released as Burden, and we can find out what pace he really has, because it took a while to get past Adam Gardner. Just I assume a small mistake from Gardner, maybe through that chicane, or maybe it was a spectacular lap from Burden. Managed to get close enough onto the pit straight, and now is ahead. Is that a slow car just ahead? It may well just be a back marker ahead of Burden. I think it is. Michael Yip was the next driver they have to battle on. Yeah, just flashing the lights, very much letting his presence known, and maybe best to take the historic layout there for the 128 car. That was, we always love to name him, Shane. Paul Jackson, there you go. Paul Jackson 8, plenty of Paul Jackson on iRacing. Clearly, I think we saw something like, I think there's something like 40 Matthew Smiths. It's absolutely insane. Once again, anyone on the chat who knows names which are insanely popular on iRacing, like 50 plus names, then please let us know, because well, we need to know these things. Obviously, this is research. Gardner is back on the tail actually of Burden, so I was waiting for Burden to set the world alight with his first lap time in clear air. In fact, it's been a bit underwhelming, failing to pull away too much. Maybe just trying to get used to not seeing a Porsche front wing a few meters ahead of him at all times. Elsewhere at the front, no changes for position, but it's getting closer and closer. Remember when Phoeben was running away by a second on the opening lap, it looked, oh, maybe this could be a comfortable race victory. Anything but. He's only 0.4 of a second now ahead of Neil Pearson. Nathan Hupat's in third place, and Justin Rougier a little bit further back in fourth, but only about 2 seconds off the race lead at the moment. Then Luthwaite, who has dropped off a bit, has Aidan Luthwaite. He's got Cullis and Yip quite close to him. Damon Maltqueen, by the way, unfortunately out of the race. Quite regular in the series, but having issues. A few penalties as well for drivers. Phil Otto, the 5-second stop and hold, and also Andrew Clifford as well. And those ones were for causing collision for Phil Otto. You may have well have seen them on your screen already. So just about to complete lap 10. Cost 2 pit stops for these drivers to complete. 90 minutes this race, so perhaps every half an hour, or yeah, could see some changing of strategy. Down to 0.3 of a second now between the top two.
Yeah, not much between all four of those cars right now. Very, very close together. And it's kind of been the theme of the season so far, is the front runners haven't really been able to gain a huge advantage, where tracks kind of like this play out, where it's a lot of open runoff area and not too many major issues where these guys can get undone. But pretty interesting to see just how much room's being afforded to all these guys. You can see a couple of drivers like the Happets and Pearson just considering options of where they could look for a pass. I'm a little surprised to see Rougier just dropping back off the tail in 4th position there, and it looks like Lithwaite has managed to get past Collis as well, but Aidan got a lot of work there to do in the 5th spot. But these top 4 just starting to probe each other and see whereabouts they're a little bit stronger, where those cars might work a little bit better. And I'm already picking up here, watching Tim Phoeben on the exit of the run up to campus there, just struggling to get the nose of that car in a little bit. So that could be a bit of a telltale sign that his front tyres are starting to go 18 minutes into this race.
Ooh, I thought maybe third place Nathan Huppert's was going to go into the back of his rival on that occasion. Was early enough on the brakes, however. And yeah, these guys are really close. You're absolutely right. Perhaps the tyres just going off. So much pressure being put on the front left tyre, of course, with that long turn 3, turn 1. I could go on. Many corners, most of the corners around here. Really putting a lot of pressure on those tyres. So could see some bad degradation for these guys. As I think we might see... Well, that's a back marker. Apologies. I thought that was a change for 4th position with Justin Rougier. Instead, he was just making his way past some traffic.
Well, actually, has Rougier got a slowdown penalty now? Because he's fallen now behind Aiden Litherwaite. So potential there that was a slowdown getting out through the new chicane section, which has caused him to come undone. He's now down into the 7th spot and not that far from Josh Burden now getting a run at him as well.
It's disastrous there for Justin Rougier. And he was really keeping up with these top 3 and then had a couple of laps where he was dropping off. And now with that slowdown, as you say, drops down to 7th place. A lot of work now to do for him. He's going to have to hope that these top 3 guys start battling quite significantly. Luthwaite then up into 4th place and Yip up into 5th. Pearson looks as though he wants to get past. Sometimes we see drivers fighting for the lead and they're quite happy just to stay in the slipstream. I think Pearson would quite like to have track position against the Mach 1 Esports leader.
Yeah, that was the closest run we'd seen from Pearson on the exit of Campus Corner there, so getting a run there. A little bit slower down the field. I think Rougier was just coming in under one of our lap down cars there as well, but these 3 really not settled much apart at all. Lee Vandenberg changed of position for him and Adam Gardner. Adam just dropping off a little bit, but they're still working on the back of Josh Burden as well with looks like, I believe, a lap down car just getting in the mix there that's going to help Burden escape just the clutches for the time being.
Oh, Rougier, has he got ahead of Yip? Apologies, that was Yip coming into the pits. So that's an early pit stop for Michael Yip. He seems to have really good pace. Surprised that he's felt the need to mix up the strategy there. Could well work out for him though. Here comes Cullis then against Burden. And that is Cullis losing out to Burden. He was bottled up for ever so long in 9th place. Made the move on Vandenberg. Made the move on Adam Gardner. Relied on the slowdown for Vandenberg and now has got past Jordan Cullis as well. So good progress right now from Joshua Burden. He's up into the top 6 from 9th on the grid. However, he's still under pressure, having to defend into a few of these corners. Has such a wide circuit this, so you can go for a lunge if you really want to. So that can be difficult to pull away initially. However, he's got a couple of tenths now, and he should be safe. Next up for him is Justin Rougier, just up the road.
Yeah, Rougier still recovering after his issues earlier on, but getting back on the swing of things. A little further down the field, a good move here. Lindsay Hobbs getting a move done there. Actually, still battling with Tim Matterford, and that will catch the eyes of race control there. Contact between both those drivers, and we'll see what comes as a result of that one. A little bit of an unforced error there.
Wilkes a little bit stranded as well as Nicholson missing most of his car. Hopefully you will get the new damage model on these things as Brett Wilson just moving up there. He's in 18th place. Apologies, 17th place. Cullis into the pits. He's had enough of those tyres. Had a few drivers straight behind him, so I think that was probably a wise decision to get into the pits. A couple of pit stops, remember, for these drivers to complete. Pit stop, plenty to go in this 6th round of the season. First endurance round of the championship as well. So the big question is, will Cullis still be behind Michael Yip, who had a 13.8 second pit stop, did Yip? Seems like Cullis is going to have a similar length pit stop. In fact, it's a longer pit stop for Cullis. Oh, this is not good for him whatsoever. Up to 21 seconds already.
Yeah, this could be the strategy. Well, this will be part of the strategy that comes in later on. Obviously, the guys do have one mandatory tyre stop that they do need to complete
Course, yeah.
between those two. So deciding whether you take them early or later, going to be interesting to see. Taking at this point in the race, though, 23 minutes down, you've got a lot of time left to do on those tyres comparative to the guys that are going to come in later on and take those fresh rubber. It's going to hurt you really in the long run here. So outright pace and consistency is going to be key now, trying to keep those tyres or the damage on those tyres to a minimum, so no lock-up brakes really can be afforded here, and just driving it smooth will be all that he needs to do to try and get this thing home.
Thank goodness you're in the commentary box with me, otherwise I'd be absolutely hopeless. As everyone knows, Apex Racing TV, hopeless with strategies. We really have no idea what we're talking about, but thankfully you're with me today to help me out, Daniel. Shane Best currently out on. So we were also looking at Michael Yip trying to make a move. He has now got past Simon Black. That's Michael Yip. Of course, with a bit more fuel, can struggle to really undercut those other drivers, especially seeing they didn't take tyres earlier on. Jordan Cullis now down into 29th place. Hasn't got too many cars to overtake ahead of him, if that's any silver lining to him.
No, but that'll play out later on as things unfold. They're just on board as well now with Shane Best. He's got Chris Barnes behind him. You just see on the little in-view shot, and we'll jump back to Chris. Might be a great opportunity just to stay on board here with Chris. We'll take a lap around the Barcelona circuit, just get a look at where these drivers are making their moves.
Looks as though this is going to be comfortable for Barnes. Straight past Shane Best, who's deeper on the brakes actually. And they'll go side by side through these first couple of corners, and it is Best who stays ahead. I thought that was going to be comfortable for Barnes, but really does just show if you've got a bit more confidence through turn one, you can hold on to that position. Remember, everyone on the same setup in this series, regarding, of course, the same car. These cars do vary. They're not like the V8 supercars, which are identical. These cars do vary a bit. So different setups for each of them. However, it is a fixed setup series, hence the name, if you hadn't have guessed. And that just means that everyone's mega competitive. You've got to very much show your talents rather than the amount of setup hours you can put in. And that is much of the reason why everyone is ever so close. All of a sudden, Best with a rocket ship onto the back of that car. And he's starting to even put some pressure on the driver ahead, potentially, of Reese Holters as well, dropping the car behind. Still, many of the front runners yet to come into the pits. We saw Brett Wilson come in for a 4-second pit stop, so may well have been a penalty, I guess, for Wilson.
Yeah, we haven't had anything yet from race control of penalties that have been dished out, so we'll keep an eye on that. That could just be coming in, get one of those quick stops down, add a little bit of fuel and continue on the way. So we've also got Michael Whiting coming in the lane as well for his first stop. Shane Van Gisbergen likewise has jumped in the lane as well. So now's probably at the right time. We're going to start expecting pretty much the majority of our field at least to come in for their first stop within the next 5 to 10 minutes at the moment. I'm really surprised to see too, just looking at our front group, just how much Tim Phoeben and Neil Pearson have actually been able to gain a little bit of an advantage so far over Nathan Happert. Still noticing a lot of trouble for Phoeben though, trying to get that Mach 1 Esports car turned in some of the quicker sections. He's struggling a little bit more for that front end grip still.
Yeah, not quite as comfortable with that car as maybe he was in qualifying. It's a really good qualifying time to take pole position. He was... in fact, I can't even see what time he did in qualifying. Obviously, it was a different session. But clearly, it was a very good lap time for him to take pole position. And that's been the key ever since, because he hasn't necessarily been the fastest driver. However, haven't really seen Pearson get close to an overtake so far, despite perhaps having a couple of attempts a lap on him. Now they're getting involved with the back markers, and it might just be worth dipping into the pits sooner rather than later. Happert gets held up a little bit, I think, behind that back marker. It might be worth coming into the pits, get a bit of fresh air. However, if you pit, of course, then you might be behind some drivers who are fighting for position and will not be quite as generous as some of these back markers are, who are going well offline in order to escort the front runners past. Very much spreading out the field now, because we've had a few pit stops so far. Van Gisbergen also coming into the pits. just a couple of minutes ago on lap 15. These Spectmans now on lap 16, almost a lap ahead of Van Gisbergen. He's probably a couple of corners up the road from these guys. We are getting to that half an hour mark very soon, so it would make sense to pit at some points. Would you say maybe the undercut could be a wise decision if you were Pearson here? Would you maybe come into the pits, not necessarily take tyres, but come into the pits, take a little bit less fuel and try to get past the race leader Timothy Phoeben that way? Or what strategies do you think are available to him right now?
Look, I think he probably hit the nail on the head. I think he's going to want to try and get in a little earlier, get the stop done, use that little bit of clear track advantage he's going to get when he comes back out to try and gain a little bit. I mean, lap times between both these guys very, very consistent. Last time was about 2/10 in favour of Tim Phoeben, but as they cross the line here at the moment, again another 10th in favour of Phoeben there. So potentially, maybe about the right time for Phoeben to get out. We've got a little bit of lap traffic just working its way back out on track as well, which is doing its best to just allow these guys to clear through and continue the race out the front.
Burden coming under a bit more pressure at the moment in 6th place. He's apologies, is that Burden? Yeah, Burden's just ahead of Vandenberg. Those two kind of working their way through the order together. They were 9th and 10th once upon a time. They're now in 6th and 7th. Remember, Yip, I think, was ahead of these guys when he pitted, so it might turn out to be one place lower. What times is Yip actually doing? He just did a 42.49, which is pretty much matching these guys. In fact, compared to the leaders, though, he's quite a bit slower. So I'm not sure if that strategy for Yip is going to work out. Remember, he came into the pits a few laps ago, put some extra fuel in, and pretty much at this point in the race, it's not a great situation for him to be in. He's just got more fuel, basically, than his rivals. I expect him in about the halfway mark, and he will be very quick. He'll be out of position, basically. He should get his 2 pit stops done, though, much earlier than everyone else, so will come back into play later on. But at the moment, those lap times not quite backing up that decision to come into the pits quite as early as he decided to do so. But yeah, Burden under a bit of pressure from Vandenberg. Woods being caught by Mellet, who's had a good race at the moment. Mellet had to make a few overtakes so far to get up into the top 9 to the 42.42, which is absolutely lovely for everyone who has ACD. And Mellet coming into the pits, in fact. And Butler as well.
Yeah, so with those guys coming in for their stop, that'll release Paul Wood now. Finds himself up into the 8th spot as those stops take effect. We'll keep an eye on how he goes. Like, the lap progression for him so far has been really, really good. Quickest lap time out there of about a 1:41.8. About 8/10 slower at this moment. Obviously, with the tyre fall off, you kind of expect a little bit of drop there. So he's still coming along quite nicely. A little bit of a gap between himself, though, and Lee Vandenberg, but likewise, he's got a pretty solid gap to the next contender there in Alex Court for DPR Racing. But probably, I guess, while we're watching all these come through tonight, must give probably a very big shout out to the sponsors that are on board helping the series, especially for the Endurance Championship at the moment. Simfinity, who not only building the 80/20 rigs in Australia, doing a fantastic job for that, have also graciously put up $300 gift cards for the Endurance Championship. So big congratulations for them, and for anyone looking at some 80/20 profiled rigs in Australia, jump on over to simfinity.com.au and have a look at them. The other major sponsor too for this series are Brooksy, doing a fantastic job as well, and they've put on some fantastic gear for the guys as far as a pack for gloves and shoes and all the gear just to help protect your pride and joy equipment and all the money that people are spending. So fantastic support from both of those two sponsors.
Yeah, very much thanks to those guys for making the series possible, and as fantastic as it is. Someone was asking, how do you get on the iRacing Esports Network? What series are chosen on the iRacing Esports Network? Well, they kind of just got to, have a bit of reputation. Usually rookie series aren't put on the iRacing Esports Network, but they've got to have a good reputation, good organisation. That certainly this series ticks those boxes. That's why it says on. I believe this is season 10 of this championship. Simon Black doesn't look very confident about that. It looks as though he's almost lost a tyre because he's all of a sudden just was all off shape through that final part of the circuit, which is difficult enough as it is, but it seems like he's really struggling with those tyres. So remember, these tyres can double stints. They can go 2 hours around some circuits, but it certainly doesn't look that way at the moment for Simon Black. He's yet to pit, of course. Nick Sanfilippo coming into the pits. Of course, we can identify that because he's pretty much the only Ford out there, certainly the leading Ford. He should be able to make this move very quickly indeed. Sanfilippo, actually third place out of the drivers who have pitted so far, and a very short pit stop as well. 10 seconds stationary. So he's looking pretty good at the moment as comfortably moves up a place going into turn 5. I think we're getting to the point now where I think most of these guys who are going to pit from this point on is probably going to take tyres, I guess. I guess, Daniel, because we've got almost... We're still a little bit further away from halfway distance. But it would be strange to put in, say, 10 laps of fuel right now and then pit for tyres at the 50-minute mark. You'd expect these guys, seeing that they've gone this far, to go to the 45-minute mark and pit then.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be trying to go as long as possible now and see what you come up with. We've just seen too, Neil Pearson has come in the lane, so he's actually dropped out first and trying for the undercut against Tim Phoeben, who's continued on again. So we'll keep an eye on where he falls back in once this timing cycled through. It looks like also a couple of other guys that have come back in the lane for their secondary stops. Shane Van Gisbergen as well, still down in 23rd. He's completed his next stop, and just a little bit of info there on the timing box there. You can see just the gaps and where they're sort of ebbing and flowing. You can see over the course of the last 5 laps, the advantage has really swung in favour of Tim Phoeben there. He's been able to really extend the lead over Nathan Happitz, who now formerly third, up into second at the moment.
Lutherweight as well, very quick on that last lap. These guys very consistent lap times. They were in the 41s, kind of just dropping into the 42s now. But they've stayed very consistent, very impressive driving from the majority of them. Will Phoeben cover off that undercut attempt from Neil Pearson? He didn't take tyres last time out. 11 seconds in the stop. Phoeben continues. So he's got confidence in himself. Of course, he's got less fuel right now than Phoeben. Apologies, than Pearson. So, but Pearson has got a lot of fresh air, whereas, if anything, Phoeben's got a little bit of traffic just in front of him. So, going to have to be careful from that one. Yip trying to get past Brownlee now. Second place out of the drivers who have pitted, of course, Michael Yip.
Yeah, and doing a really good job. He's a little further back, obviously, from Neil Pearson, who's just come down the lane. We saw lap time ago, but pace still been very good. He's only about 4 tenths of a second off his quickest lap at the moment in the BMW, and gaining at the moment on Lockhart Brownlee just in front there in the Porsche. So coming along strong. We'll keep an eye on that. I'm really interested to see now with Neil Pearson having been released what his lap times are going to be. So we'll keep in mind next time by just to get his first representative speed check as well following his stop. But again, that was very, very small, only about 11 seconds there as well.
Brenton Hawkins just came into the pits. Yip can't get close enough at the moment. And remember, he was in a really tight battle with the likes of... he was quite close to Rougier, just behind Rougier, before the pit stops. But he wasn't far ahead of Burden and Vandenberg, Paul Woods, Alex Courts. Of course, all those guys might be taking tyres, so he will end up ahead of them. But, of course, he'll have to take tyres later on for Michael Yip. So, really tricky to say where he's going to end up at the moment. Of course, he's spent a while since his last pit stop. Needs to clear this Porsche straight away, though. Do this quick turn 9. Don't want to run too wide. Don't want to pick up a 1x, of course. We'll get some penalty points if he commits that foul. As Josh Burden under pressure from Leigh Vandenberg. Vandenberg not quick enough. Vandenberg really good lap times recently. Set the fastest lap of anyone a few laps ago, out of the Jazz on that lap. I think it was lap 20, 1. I think he set a really nice lap time, much faster than the race leaders. And so he seems to have good tyre life. Got to go another 7 minutes or so to get to half distance. Here's what happened to Ruggiero a moment ago.
Yeah, just coming in through the chicane, actually just losing the back end on turn-in. So just grabbing that brake just a little too much there, but able to get that car turned around and continue on. Although he did find himself coming up stationary for quite a long time, just waiting for that train to clear. So smart work there just to make sure no issues on the rejoin, but that has dropped him down now to the 15th position. So very costly mistake there.
I think there might still be issues for Ruggiero. I see him stationary. 22.06 laps he's done. Has he come out of the pits yet? Not sure if he has. He's continuing to fall down, so worrying times right now for Justin Ruggiero. He'd made his pit stop, or did come in on that last lap, but he towed back to the pits. I guess that was the case. So, well, that's a shame because he was running in the top 5 places, as he could get a nice haul of points, and I don't know, maybe a hardware issue or something like that, which has taken him out of this event. Hopefully we'll see him back on track. As I said that, he's disconnected from the session, so Justin Ruggiero out of the race. Big shame that. Hopefully we'll see him back for next week's round.
Yeah,
Top 6 still yet to pit, so.
No, that's quite right. I was going to say, yeah, not the best run for him, but hopefully he will be able to recover and come back out for the next week's event.
Just being asked on the chat, how many laps can these drivers do with starts in fuel? I believe there's no fuel limit, so they can go an hour if they want to. It's probably not the best strategy to go for though, because you still got to pit twice. So to go a whole hour and then pit twice in half an hour, probably not great. You want to pit on about half distance, which we're nearly there. Everyone can do 90 divided by 2. So yeah, we are nearly at 45 minutes. And then the drivers will be able to come in, get some fresh set of tyres on, and we'll be able to set some very quick times. Usually, probably the fastest means to get to the end of the race, because you do have track position to gain back potentially. You're going to have to overtake some extra cars if you do take tyres at your first stop. So plenty of different strategy calls for these guys. Bartholomew just letting past one of his rivals, 27th place, or further down than that, in fact, it's Bartholomew. Sorry, 23rd position. And of course, now a lap down on Timothy Bevan. Aidan Luthwaite from 3rd place comes into the pits.
Yeah, likewise, I think Lee Vandenberg also jumping in the lane there as well. So a few of those front runners now getting their compulsory stops out. I just ducked back just to check up on Neil Pearson after his stop, and he's running now a 41.79, so fractionally quicker, about 3 to 4 tenths of a second quicker than our race leader. So this could be the time that he needs at this moment to gain that position up on Tim Phoeben once he comes down the lane as well.
Yeah, this could work very well right now for Neil Pearson. Luthwaite's going to take tyres then. Alex Court, I assume. No, Alex Court's not taking tyres. Unless he's taken 1 tyre. Usually, anyone who's ever tried taking not all 4 tyres will know it's not a good plan, because your balance on the car, which of course you've meticulously worked on, maybe not in this series, but I'm sure the race organisers have meticulously worked on a nice balance for the car, not too much oversteer, not too much understeer. And then you put a couple of fresh tyres on the front, and it absolutely makes it undrivable. Very much can spin it on a top, I think, if you make that decision. So probably not taking tyres, basically. That's the long-winded way of saying that. For Alex Court, he's still 3rd place out of the drivers who have pitted. So he's still ahead of Paul Wood and Dominic Mellett. Only just ahead of them, in fact. Where was Alex Court before all the pit stops? I swear he was outside the top 10.
Yeah, I think he was a little further back. I didn't have an exact number on where he was when he came down the lane, but doing a good job, actually, sitting in the 8th spot, up 8 spots from where he started, so coming along strong. A little further back in the field, we're seeing Adam Gardner now working on the back of Michael Whiting in the Fishy Motorsports BMW. and not quite able to get that move done. Not that long ago, we saw Gardner prior to his stop sitting up and around I think it was the 10th position there, battling alongside his teammate Lee Vandenberg. So he's fallen down a long way as a result of that stop, but could come back into contention later on. But being held up just a touch now by the looks of it.
Yeah, Gardner was struggling for pace earlier on, did a very good qualifying, I think was lining up on the third row of the grid. Dropping back a little bit, tyres at his first pit stop and finds himself quite far behind. And of course, we'll have old tyres as well at the end of the race. See, not the easiest place to overtake this, which usually provides some really good action to it. Anyone who's watched like Brands Hatch, for example, really tricky to overtake, but when you do see an overtake, you know, the drivers really do, you know, care about it, and you can have some race-long battles, not like Monza where you get one overtaken and that's it, the other driver just pulls away. Much more harder as a circuit like this. Gardner will try to get the run going into turn 1 on this occasion on Michael Whiting. If these guys, of course, have pitted, so it's properly for position this. Gardner glances to the inside in his Porsche. Not the confidence on the brakes and takes a compromised line. We'll have to do better than that on his next occasion. At 26, of course, of the race.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on this run for him as it unfolds to see how he goes. Keeping an eye likewise, Shane Van Gisbergen now up into 12th spot, so he's got Aaron Specchio just in front of him in the Pulse Racing Porsche. So I believe he's one of their first drivers to have completed both stops tonight, so working his way up through the field quite nicely. Obviously should have started up in the 3rd spot, but started right down the back there, so coming along quite nicely. I think our race leaders also not jumped in yet. Tim Phoeben still out there. Josh Burden just coming down the lane as well for his first stop tonight.
Guess they just want to pit exactly on half distance to these guys. They're leading it for a while. I thought they'd pit just before half distance because the tyres should last better in the second stint of the race. Yeah, we are now into the second half of this event, so maybe watch out for Phoeben coming in on this occasion. Burden and Yip coming in for a second time for some tyres.
Well, actually, the drive-through of Yip, or for Yip there coming in the lane, will actually be a penalty. So he had contact that he's having to serve, so he'll come down the lane, and that will be another stop for him there.
Gardner, I think he's got this one done this time. Came close on the last lap, gets it done on this one. So, nice bit of clean air now for Adam Gardner for him to utilise.
Yeah, and if he can keep the Porsche under him, he should be able to gain some good advantage. Last time by was about a 10th of a second quicker than Whiting, but now having been released, he should be able to extend that gap a little bit further. So we'll keep an eye on that. At the moment, our still top 5 yet to come down the lane. So Tim Phoeben, Nathan Happets, Alex Court, Lockheed Brownlee and Paul Wood still yet to come in for their first of 2 stops tonight. And really surprised to see just how long Phoeben has gone on here. So the lap time's still sitting around that 1:42 comparative to Neil Pearson. He's actually a 10th quicker last time by. So he's finding a little bit of life in these tyres as the run continues.
Happats is, yeah, absolutely right there. Just behind. It's certainly a case for the race win. But yeah, Pearson already up into 3rd place, but despite a couple of drivers yet to pit. Brownlee yet to pit. Paul Wood coming in for his 2nd pit stop. So that will be for tyres, I guess. I don't believe he took tyres on his last pit stop. Also, Simon Nicholson yet to come to the pits, currently running in 19th place. So all kinds of pit stops. Some drivers who have pitted twice, some drivers who have pitted once, and some drivers who are yet to pit so far in this race. Of course, the first endurance round of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series. And of course, Apex Racing TV bringing you the action on the iRacing Esports Network. Hopefully you're enjoying the coverage so far. Plenty more racing to go. for the last kind of 20 minutes or so. We've had a battle on either side of the track, but I assure you, by the end of this race, we will see a proper wheel-to-wheel battle, hopefully for the lead between Phoeben and Herpats, and also Pearson. Herpats now into the pits, and he's going to take tyres.
Yeah, so we get that done. We're just seeing too on the replay, just a change of position with Lee Vandenberg and Jesse Butler. That was a positional change done into turn 1. And actually, probably a very easy move, all things considered, for Vandenberg there, able just to drive the car down on the racing line and take that spot. So a good run from him. He'll find himself now up in that 6th position, actually already starting to extend a little bit of an advantage over Butler. Josh Burden down in the 8th spot right now. He's got Jesse Butler, who we were speaking of, just in front. In the back of shot there in the multicoloured BMW. You can see Shane Van Gisbergen as well. So he's working his way back up following his unfortunate start to the race.
And Gisbergen setting a few purple lap times in the last, well, across this race basically. Just did 40.7, that's a second faster than the race leaders. Of course, already taking tyres. That's his first pit stop. Apologies, that's Vandenberg setting fastest lap of the race. Van Gisbergen did set the fastest lap of the race earlier on in the event. Both of them the only drivers in the 1 minute 40s at the moment. So absolutely flying along at the moment. Van Gisbergen actually pitted about 14 laps ago, so that's impressive pace, and you really wonder where he would have been if it weren't for that unfortunate start, as you were saying before, Daniel, as Timothy Phoeben is into the pits. So this is a big one when it comes to Nathan Herpats then. Herpats had a short pit stop, so he did take tyres, obviously, but he was only stationary for 33 seconds, which is not too long in the pit stall, so that's probably about 28 seconds in terms of tyres, and then about 5 seconds in terms of fuel. Phoeben had about 1.5 seconds advantage before. I think Herpats may well have the advantage here. Phoeben's still stationary, 32, 33, and this is going to be a change for second place then, as Herpats moves through, Phoeben taking much more fuel than his rival. We'll have a shorter final stint, obviously, but Phoeben comes out of the pits 44 seconds stationary, so he's a long way behind him.
Yeah, but what we saw Phoeben come in the lane as well. I believe also Neil Pearson jumped in for his second stop. We're actually currently still in the lane for his second stop. So that's 2 completed for Pearson. He could potentially find himself, once all this cycles through, we know Phoeben's got another stop still to come, but could be finding himself back up on the top step of this tree as it all cycles through.
So they're all taking vastly different strategies, of course, these guys. I'd say vastly different strategies. Herpats and Phoeben taking quite similar strategies, but Phoeben taking more fuel than Herpats, which will mean that Herpats will have a longer final pit stop. However, Herpats has got less fuel at the moment, so it could work out as a bit of an undercut. Sure, there's plenty of real-world examples of this occurring. But yeah, just take a little bit less fuel and have a slightly faster stint, and maybe get track position after your second pit stop. We'll see what happens. Brownlee, has he pitted yet? I don't think he has. No, he hasn't. He's running in 3rd place though. Take a screenshot of this.
Still yet to pit for him, and actually he's got a miracle Aiden Litherwaite right behind him as well, trying to work his way through.
Top rookie driver at the moment. Oh, we've got a car off.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get a number on that. It looks like they're able to possibly turn that car around. It is stationary on the track still. That's 37th position. That's Michael Judd at the moment. So well down there. I think he's got that car rotated around, so they're moving again. So I don't think we'll see a safety car as a result of that.
Yeah, of course, no safety cars so far. I think we had our season's worth at Bathurst, all concentrated in 45 minutes, but none so far in this so far 50-minute completed race. This is what happened to Michael Judd then. Yeah, I think that's a good example there to just blame the setup. Say, oh, it bounced too much, hence why I stopped.
Yeah, look like he did that all on his own, just catching that inside sausage curb there and rotating it, but able to keep it off the wall, which was the saving grace there. No major issues. Lee Vandenberg now closing in on the back of Aiden Lithuate as well. A little further down, we've got Dominic Molt, Paul Wood,
Issue for
Chris
Palace.
Barnes, and actually, I think that's Molt going sideways there. Actually, Chris Barnes, sorry, in the sim racing car, just getting all out of sorts there.
Yeah, massive side going through turn 3 there. I think Cullis just lost his place as well to Specchio. Didn't lose massive amounts of time, but just a small issue for him there, and yet Mellet involved in that secondary collision. This was Cullis going into turn 5. And yeah, just a bit of a spin there, and yeah, did lose a decent amount of time and had to do a full 360 and back on his way. Fortunately, there weren't too many more cars coming around that area of the track. That's a shame for the driver who was running, I think, in 6th place. I think he actually lost place to Van Gisbergen right there.
Yeah, did lose the spot, but obviously should be able to keep going. No damage on the car really there, so that's a good thing, but we'll keep an eye on that. Adam Gardner on screen at the moment in the Mark 1 Sports car, finding himself still down a little bit from where he started 7th, currently running 10th, so a little bit of work left to do for him, but he does still have quite a few drivers yet to come down the lane for their respective stops as well, so could be a couple of spots waiting there in the wins for him. But we'll keep an eye on that as it unfolds. The lap time pretty good for it, must be said. 1:42.4 last time by. A little slower than ultimate pace, the likes of Van Gisbergen, but very competitive still considering who's around him.
I haven't spoken too much about Aiden Luthwaite recently, but he's 11.5 seconds off the lead, 1 second ahead of Leigh Vandenberg, who, and they're pretty much on the same strategy as well, Luthwaite and Vandenberg. They were nose style, I think, earlier on in this race, but Vandenberg being one of the fastest drivers out on circuit recently. Just shows how important qualifying was. I mean, in a 90-minute race, usually qualifying doesn't count for too much. But around this circuit, where it is quite tricky to overtake, especially if you're in a large pack, we've kind of seen the positions stay relatively similar to what they were at the start. You question if Vandenberg took pole position, for example, whether he would be winning this race right now. Instead, he sits, as I was saying, now 13.5 seconds off the lead after just a little bit of time through the lap traffic. And now Beeben and Burden and Van Gisbergen all catching up. Aaron Specchio coming into the pits. He'll take tyres. 15-second first stop. So it should be about 35 seconds for this second stop, maybe even shorter than that.
Oh, a spin
for Beeben.
Yeah, actually collecting another car as well, just losing the rear end as he ran down into one. And that spin actually now drops him down behind Shane Van Gisbergen. Here's another view of it from the onboard, just snatching those rear brakes on the entry, and lucky to have not been hit by anyone else as he rotated that car back around.
So that was the former race leader then, Timothy Beeben, who may have just thrown away any chance. Everyone's so close out here that you cannot afford mistakes like that, and this could well be the key for Neil Pearson to take this race victory. Maybe it'll be Nathan Herpatz, who knows? But it seems as though we've gone from a 3-car battle for the race win to a 2-car battle. Wasn't looking brilliant for Beeben. I think Herpatz had a better strategy anyway with that shorter second stint, shorter first pit stop, I should say. But yeah, massive disappointment right there for the former race leader, the pole sitter, of course. So yeah, really changes the complexion of this race. Pearson currently by himself, to be fair. 9 seconds to the next car, so he can set some nice clean lap times in front of him without too much worry.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on this battle here with Jesse Butler and Shane Best, the scrap for 13th and 14th at the moment. These two have been pretty well inseparable for quite a number of laps now, lapping within a couple of tenths of a second of both drivers. They're actually a slightly slower lap for Shane, which has ultimately brought him back into the clutches, but The pace between both these guys very evenly matched. A little bit of a back marker there. That's one of the Fishing Motorsports cars just stepping wide, so smart move there. But Butler really trying to look for an opportunity here to move his Redback Racing Porsche up another spot.
Really nice run this time for Butler. I think this could be quite comfortable on Shane Best. He's gained 12 places as Shane Best. Butler down 3 places. Also after making his second pit stop into turn 1. We're seeing some tricky overtakes down here so far. I think Shane Best realising that he's not quite in the same race as his rival. And so we'll let him go on this occasion. Another issue, by the way, for Jordan Cullis down there with another bit of a spin. Actually just had an awful lap. 1 minute 52, that's 10 seconds slower than his rivals. So I think he had a spin and then maybe even another slide. So Cullis massively straining. He's already taken tyres, remember, so it's not as though he's going to be able to take some new tyres. Because these cars running the old tyre model, so once you do have a slide, it can overheat the tyres and it's very difficult to cool them down again.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, is trying to keep those pressures down in these tyres and maintain the run for as long as possible. But should be able to do it if you can just ease off that brake just a fraction as you're coming into those corners and rotate these cars through. It certainly will help in the long run here. Lithuate, the camera's just up on him now, currently sitting second. A little bit of a gap of about 13 seconds to himself and Nathan Happett's out front, still leading the way for Fusion Sim Racing, but he is extending a little bit of a gap now over Lee Vandenberg, current third position, actually going to lose a little bit of time with that back marker there, and the gap second to third only is just under a second now, so these two really starting to close in. Shane Van Gisbergen, with the pace that he's been running as well, starting to close the door down on these two in front of him. You can just see him in the top of frame there, working his way down as well.
Yeah, Van Gisbergen only just got past Burden, in fact. So he's properly on a mission, is Shane Van Gisbergen, from last place, remember. I mean, would have probably been the favourite for this race win if it weren't for that. Said the real life supercars driver is doing it the hard way. Is up into 4th place, and that's a legitimate 4th place as well. I guess maybe Pearson will end up ahead of him, but yeah, probably 5th place when all the pit stops will be completed. 2nd place out of the drivers who have pitted twice is Alex Courts, and then Paul Wood. Here is Burden again, although he's now a second behind Van Gisbergen. So he's lost basically a second in 1 lap. Such is the pace of the 970 car. Paul Wood and Dominic Mellett are quite close to one another at the moment. 3/10 of a second between these two. This is quite an important battle. Good to see the Ferrari as well represented up there. Not vast amounts of them. They're just all BMWs too, though. We can say that about every category, or every car apart from the BMW. Yeah, Paul Wood under massive pressure, and like I said, this probably does matter. Wood pitted 1 lap later than Mellett. They both took tyres, so they're pretty much on the same situation right now. Good straight line speed for the BMW. The Ferrari has enough Ks just to stay ahead on this lap 36, over an hour into this event now.
Yeah, that's something we've seen throughout the course of the season. The Ferraris really had a good straight line advantage. The BMW seems to be very, very good in the mid corners and maybe a little top end as well, but not quite being able to show its true pace here at the moment. But take nothing away from Paul Wood as we continue riding off the gearbox here. He's doing a fantastic job just placing that car exactly where he needs to retain that 10th position.
Shane Best has just pitted for a 2nd time, so he saw him being overtaken. So rather than being overtaken himself, he's looking to get past Chris Pellets, who's pitted 3 times now as Pellets. He must have had a drive-through penalty. By the way, no further action for car 988. That was Timothy Bevan, that spin he had at turn 1. Didn't make any contact with the back marker that he was racing, and so will not get a penalty for that, which makes sense, must be said. Also, he got quite a penalty for it anyway. It was a complete accident, just out-braked himself. and has perhaps thrown away an opportunity at a race where maybe even a podium will be difficult to achieve now for him, with the pace of Vandenberg and Van Gisbergen and Luthwaite as well. Just shows how competitive these guys are. That's yeah, one mistake like that sends you down many positions by the end of the event. Luthwaite continuing to lose time to Herpetz, who's in the 40s now, 40.99 on that last lap. In comparison, Pearson doing a 41.51. He's his main rival. I'll say right now, we had a nice, I don't know, we should have like a nice momentum graphic or something like that. That would be something to ask SDK Gaming to do. But it seems like the momentum is swinging towards Nathan Herpatz at the moment with this pace. He's out in the lead. He's got less traffic than his rivals. It's all looking very sunny for him.
Yeah, he's putting all the stops in, getting what he needs out of that car, and the run's been fantastic. Lee Vandenberg just dropping in the lane for his second stop as well. So that'll move Van Gisbergen up, who's also really starting to close in on the back of Lithuania. He's actually closing on the back of Vandenberg as well. So it'll be interesting to see with that little bit of a gap what he can do. But yeah, take nothing away from Nathan Happens. We haven't probably spent a lot of time focusing on the car out front, the Fusion Sim Racing car, but he's been doing a faultless job to bring this car home.
Of course, it's been an unpredictable round so far. I mean, who would have thought that Bevan would make the mistake that he made in the end? And anyone who was watching the Racetech UOB8 Supercar Series last night on Apex Racing TV, certainly recommend you checking it out. We had teammates crashing into one another. We had series champions making silly mistakes. It was absolutely craziness. And this has been relatively similar as well. Vandenberg into the pits and out of the pits. 18-second stationary for Vandenberg. He's come out behind Mellet. Could be a tricky overtake for him to do. He is at least ahead of Adam Gardner, who only just pitted as well, did Gardner. So that's quite important for Vandenberg to get that one done. So Vandenberg will be at least in the top 10. He should be quite a bit higher than top 10, to be fair. He's had really good paces at Vandenberg in this second half of the event. He will have to pass Paul Wood and Dominic Mellet in order to get any clean air. Currently sits about 2 seconds behind those guys.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll be that hard for him to position that BMW through. I think knowing, or I mean, everyone racing the league, they have a good understanding of who they're good and quick against. They're not going to want to give up these positions, but Vandenberg will no doubt find a way to get through there. He's coming at these guys with a fair amount of pace at the moment. The gap continuing to shrink, 1.6 seconds, and still coming down as they run down in towards the new infield stadium section, and you know, closing that car up very nicely. So this turned into a really good little battle as they go through. Gisbergen again in the lane. So that actually, sorry, is his second stop now. So just a call there from us earlier on. Thought he'd come down twice, but in the lane for his second stop. Likewise, Tim Phoeben as well. So yeah, those guys now getting their stops all completed and out of the way.
Someone did say, to be fair, Van Gisbergen coming in for the second time. So it's whoever you are, honestly, how dare you, because we are easily confused. So we do not appreciate that. Anyway, Mellet overtaking Woods. Can Wood keep part of his car alongside? Oh, nearly contact between the two of them. Just about got ahead, did Dominic Mellet, and that's a nice move. Had to work for it for a while. Behind them is, not behind them, Phoeben is still ahead then of these guys, and by a massive margin. Why is he so far ahead? No, he's not that far ahead. 15 seconds. Not a huge gap. So Phoeben is in 5th place, only just ahead of Van Gisbergen. And this is probably matters now. This is incredible. Van Gisbergen started last. Phoeben started on pole. And yet they're now on the same piece of circuit, pretty much with the same strategy. To be fair, Van Gisbergen with about 10 lap older tyres. But same amount of fuel, and this probably matters now. So yeah, incredible drive right now from Shane Van Gisbergen, but there is an element of me which is quite sad because, I mean, we could have had he would have been well in the fight for the race win if it weren't for whatever happened at the start.
Yeah, look, we've seen Shane out in the series a couple of times, coming in very, very close there under brakes as they close off this lap. We've seen him in a couple of other events. I think Silverstone last season, probably the most notable one, was able to really drive away from the field out the front there. But great that, with the level of participation throughout the course of the series and the guys pushing on, they're able to start bridging these gaps. And as a result, we're seeing some fantastic racing here. Van Gisbergen just playing a little bit on the back of Fieben. I would have thought he would have had the run there to make the move into turn one, just letting off a bit earlier and looking after those tyres. You can just see him modulate that throttle just to keep that nose in on the run up through Repsol hairpin here. And he is keeping that car well and truly in the fight.
He's really fuel saving as Van Gisbergen, and even into turn 4. I thought maybe turn 1 was the only place he was going to do it. But into turn 4 he was lifting off as well. So we'll could maybe ride on board with him for a little bit longer, just see if he lifts and pace a bit more. A little bit there, I think. So I wonder if he's underfueled that car a little bit accidentally, and he's suddenly seen on his third-party app, or maybe the iRacing fuel predictor, how much fuel he's got till he gets to the end of the race. And all of a sudden it's now having to fuel save a little bit. Or maybe he's just happy to stay behind his rival. I'm not sure. But we'll see if Van Gisbergen can get past Fieben. He certainly looks faster right now, considering that if he is saving fuel, he's still staying on the tail of the 988 car at the moment. So these guys, of course, behind Pearson then. I think that's quite self-explanatory. 16 seconds behind Pearson. So if Fieben hadn't have had that spin, it would have been close between him and Pearson. Would have been close to call. Probably Pearson's still ahead. That would have been certainly a lot closer if it weren't for that spin in turn 1 about 10 laps ago.
Yeah, we're just watching here Van Gisbergen and Fieben just working their way through a little bit of lap traffic there. Shane really trying to get that car back on racing line and actually having a go now on the outside. So don't think he'll get this move fully completed, but near enough to showing his intent. Actually, big dive towards the inside. So he is not messing around now. He's ready to make this move and get moving up.
Yeah, no fuel saving now. He wants that position. Fieben on the inside going to turn 5, and Gisbergen can have a slightly more comfortable line. Off the circuit goes the back marker. That's Peter Morris, I believe, having take D-course there. Detour, apologies. Don't think D-course is a word. Fieben still 0.2 of a second as Hupats is coming into the pits. So this is big. We might have to draw our eyes away from this this battle for 5th place, because if Hupats can stay ahead of Pearson, he's going to be looking very good for the race win. Hupats is coming out of the pits right now, and he is going to be comfortably ahead. Pearson only going down the start-finish line, and meanwhile, Nathan Hupats coming out of the pits, and this is going to be very comfortable for him. He is still in the 3rd position, 5.5 seconds ahead of Neil Pearson. So that strategy for Hupats, it has worked a treat, and he's got fresher tyres. Here comes Van Gisbergen meanwhile. This is going to be for 5th place. Down the inside. Not much resilience put up by Timothy Fieben, although carries good speed through turn 1. I don't think Van Gisbergen was expecting that one. And brilliant driving from the BMW driver there. And he stays ahead for the time being.
Yeah, a lot of respect being shown for both these drivers, and no touching yet, and still early days. We've still got 20 minutes on the clock here, but that run down into 1, great to see Fieben holding strong around the outside and not just giving it up, but it has actually allowed him an opportunity to gain a little bit more time over Van Gisbergen. So the gap now, half a second, you can see it on screen, not much in it at all, but Shane will be definitely looking to get a good run through the final couple of corners in the final sector to close that back up and potentially have another go down into turn 1.
Jordan Cullis is 5.5 seconds behind. Of course, Cullis only with the 1 pit stop so far. He's had a few incidents so far. And then they've got Alex Courts 8 seconds behind them. So really, that is just a duel. They don't have to worry about anyone, Fieben and Van Gisbergen. They can pretty much lose each other as much time as they want. It shouldn't make too much of an impact in regards to other drivers. Here's the top four, my favourite driver, Nick Sanfilippo. He's in 16th place. He's gained a few places up there, 2 places up from his start, and he's trying to get past Michael Whiting as well. Both these guys making their 2 pit stops already. Lockhart Brownlee yet to come into the pits for his 2nd pit stop. He's a few places ahead of these guys, so they will gain a place there. And Cullis now coming into the pits, so that'll be for his 2nd pit stop of the race. Still Luthwaite and Burden out in the lead, yet to pit as well.
Yeah, we keep an eye here. This onboard battle with Nick Sanfilippo and Michael Whiting. These guys working their way now through that final sector, lap 43. So hour and 15 or 14 minutes down, 43 laps. Been a fantastic run so far, and Sanfilippo looking to get a run here. I think the straight line speed definitely going to favour the BMW, but the mid-corner traction and grip out of the Ford, very, very good. But let's see what he can do down on the run into one. It's really got the draft working well for him now.
Pulls out to the inside. There's drivers coming out of the pits. Could we even see 3 wide? Sanfilippo hesitating a bit there. I don't think he really fancied getting involved in that one with the drivers as just ahead of him. Is that for position? Yeah, it is. Jordan Cullis only just in front of them then. So that's if they weren't fighting, maybe they would have been able to get past Cullis, who might be able to pull away, almost contact with the back marker. I must say the back marker's doing a brilliant job today of getting out of the way. Sanfilippo is going to have a good chance into 5, makes his nose present, and way wide for the BMW, going to tip a wheel onto the grass, and that was rather simple for Nick in the end to move up into 15th place now. He's only got 1 second to catch up to Jordan Cullis, like I was saying, so could maybe gain another place yet.
Yeah, looking at the way he's driving the car around at the moment, he's certainly got the pace advantage with him here now, and the tyre life certainly very good on the Fords. We saw it last season; they're very, very good on their tyres, and again continuing that trend this time out. But I would expect we'll at least see maybe 1-2 more laps as he goes around to the back marker there, getting out of the way. I'm just trying to see the name. I think that might have been one of the BMWs who we saw going around earlier. I think Lindsay Hobbs there. So just letting those guys move their way through, which is good to see. Back up towards the front though, Lee Vandenberg having a very good fight now. He's got Dominic Melt just behind, and just in front, one of the back markers on the Fisher Motorsports BMW, just going very, very wide and off the track, allowing these guys to continue their battle.
That's Peter Morris, I believe, just going wide at turn 4. Vandenberg, yeah, I'm surprised he's not further up, Vandenberg. But, yeah, currently in 8th place, behind Alex Court. Even that last lap of Vandenberg was half faster than the leaders. Nobody seems to look down, he seems to be really quick. But quite the position that maybe he was hoping for. Dominic Mellett, meanwhile, seems to have been battling with someone for this entire race, and has done very well in 9th position, up 4 places from his start. They're only 2 seconds ahead of Paul Wood, then another 2 seconds back to Adam Gardner. Gardner's done well to stay in touch with these guys. Hasn't been the best round for Adam, but still will be good, solid points. And of course, ahead of these guys, yeah, Courts and Van Gisbergen still on the tail of Fieben currently. No change of position. So was this how Vandenberg got past then? Aha. So that was how he made the move on Mellett then, and is now pulling away. So thanks for Scott Newton for providing us with that one, as Van Gisbergen has finally got ahead of Timothy Fieben. And, well, it looks as though he was going to make it into turn 1 earlier on, and this is how he did it.
Yeah, got himself a fantastic draft advantage on the run into 1. Keeps the nose up. I think actually might have been conceded a little bit there from Fieben. He didn't really challenge it as hard as we'd seen the previous few attempts from Van Gisbergen. But not losing touch at the moment. The gap still half second reversed to what we saw before with Fieben now chasing. But this will be a good chance for Tim to lock the eyes on, see what Van Gisbergen can do, and whether he can find an opportunity to pass him again.
Well, judging by that gap, it's going to be tricky order for Timothy Fieben to execute. Aidan Luthwaite's coming into the pit, so Burden, if he wants to stay out, which he does do, will lead. Not sure if there's any bonus points for leading a lap. But there's a bit of prize involved. So Josh Burden leads the race. Aidan Luthwaite then. Where will he come out? He should be around Van Gisbergen, I think. Oh, he's already got going again. He's way ahead of Van Gisbergen. So Aidan Luthwaite, a comfortable 4th position. 3.6 seconds stationary, so good for fuel conservation, or maybe just took some more fuel earlier on. But able to take a very short final pit stop, and he's only 3 seconds behind Neil Pearson. So we could have a good battle between those two. I believe Luthwaite changed his tires quite a bit later than Pearson. So 10 minutes, catch a 3-second gap. Gonna need over half a second a lap though. Gonna be tricky, but it's possible for Luthwaite.
Yeah, obviously you're going to need a lot of assistance from the traffic there as he works his way around it to see what he can do, but definitely keep an eye on that. Out up the front though, the 2 Fusion Sim Racing cars in the hands of Josh Bird and Nathan Happerts, extending their gap over Neil Pearson at the moment. Pearson sitting in 3rd and doing a fantastic run, it must be said, for DPR Racing, so look for him to get a really solid finish at the end. Still keeping an eye on the pace of Van Gisbergen as well. He's closing down that gap actually to Luthwaite there. You can see it on the timing tree, just continuing his march forward. We've got him up on screen now, so I wouldn't be surprised. It's hard to say. We're still 10 minutes out from the conclusion of this race, whether or not he can at least half that gap to Luthwaite, or whether he will stick with it as Josh Burden comes in the lane for his final stop tonight as well.
So this is the last of the front runners to come into the pits. Thomas Wilkes still yet to come into the pits as well, but he's down in 21st position at the moment. Burden will be, I guess he'll be in that nice little pocket between Luthwaite and Van Gisbergen. Still stationary, and Luthwaite's already got past, so maybe he will be behind Van Gisbergen. He's about to cross the start-finish line. Here they go. Van Gisbergen and Fieben. Burden's still trundling down the pit lane, and he might wedge himself into the middle here. Van Gisbergen will be ahead, but bad news for Timothy Fieben. He is still behind then. So nice job there from Josh Burden to put in those quick laps whilst he was out in the lead. And he's ahead of Timothy Fieben, who's seen himself go from the favourite to win this race down to 6th place. And it all changed with that spin.
Yeah, not the best run there, and now Tim's going to come under a lot of attack here. He's got Alex caught just behind. Alex going to get the nose down the inside. I think there's going to be a touch of contact wheel to wheel for both those cars, so that was a little bit of a late run there from Fieben to try and attempt to close the door. Actually, sorry, it was Josh Burden that contact was with, I believe. Yeah, it was. So that'll be interesting to see whether race control deem it just a little bit of a racing incident and allow these two to continue, or whether there's something else later on. But we will keep our eyes peeled for that one.
Burden will be frustrated. Oh wow, he's coming back straight away into this corner. Oh no. And Fieben, oh, they can't even get back going here. Fieben will still be ahead somehow. Have they been overtaken? Alex Courts is catching up to those guys, however he's still behind. That was an ambitious move from Josh Burden, to say the least, going into turn 10. And it seems as though he didn't get enough of the car alongside on corner entry. Maybe a bit of greed from previously. Now, was this a mistake, or was it a genuine overtake at an overtake? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, it was a long way back from Burden, and in the end, he was unfortunate because it was Fieben's car which was reversing, didn't allow Burden to get back underway for a while. In the end, hasn't made too much of a difference. Fieben remains in 5th place with Burden in 6th.
Yeah, I would imagine that one will definitely catch the eye of race control. So we'll look to see whether there's any penalties going to be handed out as a result of that. Dominic Molt on screen at the moment for the Supervac esports team. He is chasing down the Mark 1 car there, just on screen.
And Gisbergen's just had an issue. He's dropped down to 5th place. He's currently alongside Timothy Fieben. What's happened to Van Gisbergen here? There seems to be a few lapped cars just behind us. Now he goes to the inside, Van Gisbergen, trying to get back this position. Fieben's in all the battles right now. And this is what happened to... Oh, wow. Well, that's a hardware issue. Perhaps maybe a screen freeze or something. Van Gisbergen... They're still battling those two. Fieben's got ahead now of Van Gisbergen. And now Josh Burden is onto this scene as well. So... Oh, no contact again. Well, Fieben, he must be getting a little bit frustrated right now because everyone who he's fighting, he's making contact with. But he is, somehow, back up into 4th place.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an uncharacteristic lose there for Van Gisbergen, just straightening up that car so not to rotate it, which is smart head there, just to keep that thing pointed forward. But yeah, he'll be really trying to put the pressure on Fieben here,
wow.
and Fieben not going to be liking those touches, like you said.
That was a massive slide there for Van Gisbergen going through the final corner. Not usually too much of an issue in these GTE cars, such as their downforce. We did see a spin from one of the drivers there earlier on. Really looking racy is Josh Burden. Alex Court is the big beneficiary of this. He's only 2 seconds behind. Well, I say big beneficiary, he's yet to benefit from it, but he's significantly closer to a P4 than he was a few moments ago. He's about 10 seconds off P4, but then issues for all 3 of these drivers. Van Gisbergen, remember, has already made this move on Timothy Fieben, so he knows he can get it done, but by the way that car is reacting at the moment with that off in turn 1, which I thought may have been a screen freeze, but as you were saying before, Daniel, it was probably more like, straightening up when he lost the rear of the car, and then of course that slide through the final corner as well. It's looking quick still, and you can see how he's getting that nose in comfortably into turn 9. 0.3 of a second behind Timothy Fieben going into the hairpin. Will not go for an overtake this time. Once again though, that front end of the car looks a little bit better. Maybe the tyres hanging on a little bit more comfortably.
Yeah, it's interesting though watching the 2 different lines that both Fieben and Van Gisbergen are taking. Van Gisbergen are taking a very traditional line, closes up really well mid-corner, but Fieben there just runs it out a little bit and straightens that exit to gain a bit more of an advantage. But we're seeing a lot of contact nose to tail between these two, so look for Van Gisbergen if you can utilise this draft to go for another move into turn 1. Burden just following suit behind, giving these guys a little bit of room as there's a touch.
Oh, contact! Don't take each other out. Just staying ahead is Fieben. Well, that was Senna Mansell-esque from, I believe, 91. But before, they didn't make contact. That time, they definitely did make contact. And he's having to go defensive into every single corner right now, is Timothy Fieben. And now Van Gisbergen makes contact again. Fieben runs wide. Van Gisbergen makes contact. Surely this is not going to end well for the 2 of them. Van Gisbergen now moves back ahead, going into turn 5. Can Fieben have any way back? He goes round the outside. There's no way through. And now he's going to lose another position here to Josh Burden. And it's gone from 6th to 5th to 4th to 5th to 6th for Timothy Fieben. It's been a crazy race for him. It's been an entertaining broadcast just watching his onboard camera on the most part. But he's dropped back behind now, and well, I think the stewards may have to look back at that because everyone's getting very hot under the collar there.
Yeah, a lot of biff and barge there. Josh Burden, smart head, just stayed out of it and let those 2 come to terms there and have a bit of a fight, and was actually able to pick up that spot. Alex Court has actually gained quite a bit of time as a result of that, cleared a second off the difference, so he's just outside. You can see him just in the back of shot there, closing up. But now what can we see from Josh Burden? He's got Van Gisbergen up front. We know what the draft will be like within these cars. Can he get another move done here? Maybe not this lap with the gap, but that will leave Fieben though to potentially look at returning favour and maybe sending one down the inside, but it could be still that little bit too far back to get a move done.
Really struggling down the straights there was Josh Burden. Of course, everyone around the same setup, so that must just be the fact that he's picked up a bit of damage earlier on. He had that contact with a Fieben, earlier on, going into the turn 10 hairpin. So perhaps that's causing a bit of front-end damage, and why he really can't mount an attack going into someone. They are reaching some traffic. Van Gisbergen seems to be quick through the final sector. That's certainly where he was much quicker than Timothy Theben, hence why he was able to get the move down into turn 1. Was close coming out of the chicane, and then we get a nice slipstream down the pit straight. So I think everywhere else, though, perhaps Burden has a bit of an advantage. Theben not putting too much pressure on these guys. There's Courts, who will feel so annoyed if he doesn't benefit at all from this. Like I was saying, he's gained about 10 seconds on these guys in 5 laps. But if he stays in 4th in this line, then it's not really for anything. The car 904, though, Josh Burden with a 30-second post-race penalty for causing a collision. That was making contact with Theben at the turn 10 hairpin on lap 47. 30 seconds, that's a big old penalty later on in the race, of course, this, so don't want to give him a drive-through as Burden slowing down, is he, or just going to the inside of the circuit? Yeah, that's going to drop him way down the order, outside the top 15.
Yeah, and Pearson getting through, Alex Court getting through there as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if Burden's trying to redress this now. I think you'll find that penalty will still stand, but he would also had the off track, which will slow him down as well on the exit through the final chicane there. So he's dropped 2 spots as a result, on top of the now 30-second stop and hold, or 30-second post-race penalty that he will get as a result of that contact. So that's put a bit of a tarnish on what would have been a fantastic run for him tonight. We'll keep an eye there. I have a feeling we will almost be coming to the 1 more lap to go. Race leader Nathan Happens just working his way through the final couple of corners to begin his final lap. And it's been a very, very solid run for him. Nick Sanfilippo down in 14th, still scrapping pretty solidly with Jordan Collis, must be said, down in the 13th spot though.
We did see Burden go very wide on the corner before the chicane. I wonder if maybe he got a slowdown or something, hence why he was slowing down. But I don't know why he would let those positions by. I mean, the penalty's done. He didn't want to get a penalty. I mean, to be fair, when he did make contact, he didn't gain a position from it. So I don't know how he would have been able to give back the place as such. But it's basically a bad mistake. 30-second penalty he'll get. So at the moment, that would drop him to Josh Burden. He will drop down to 12th position. He'll drop behind Jesse Butler currently, but still ahead of Jordan Cullis and Nick Sanfilippo, who are currently 34 seconds behind. However, Burden's just lost a place now to Vandenberg, so he's down to 8th place now. So I wouldn't bet against him maybe dropping some even more time and maybe dropping some even more positions by the end of the race. Van Gisbergen's under massive pressure here from Theben. This is the last lap of the race. How sweet would it be for Van Gisbergen or for Theben to get 4th position? I guess after leading the race for much of this event, it wouldn't be totally satisfying, but still would be probably the best he could have got after that spin. Out in the lead though, Nathan Hupatz. He was running in 3rd place in the opening stages, minding his own business, working the strategy, and it was the perfect strategy in the end. Had to put in some stellar laps as well. But Nathan Hupatz, in the first endurance round of the season of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship, wins at Barcelona. 5 seconds behind Neil Pearson. Nice 2nd place for him. Aidan Luthwaite will finish in 3rd. What's happening in the battle for 4th though? Van Gisbergen ahead of Theben at the moment. They're all queuing up. This battle goes back to Burden in 8th. Mellet only just behind as well. Van Gisbergen, is he going to have to defend into the chicane? Surely there's no way through for Theben. He looks down the inside, but Van Gisbergen has it covered. And Theben, has he been tapped around? No, he's okay. That was a final tap there from Alex Court in a last gasp attack. And Shane Van Gisbergen from last place finishes in 4th. Theben from pole 5th. Courts gained 1 place from all of that in 5th. Oh, Sanfilippo has had a spin, battling with Butler. He won't lose any positions. And Cullis, I think, has had an issue as well on this last lap of the race. I think Cullis was ahead of Butler previously. But, yeah, Sanfilippo having an issue in that 4th. He'll finish in 14th place. Butler in 12th. Cullis in 13th. And I think well, we'll be able to see where that 30-second penalty for Burden will put him after everyone has crossed the line. But what an end to that race that was, Daniel. I mean, the first hour or so was quite civil, but that battle for fourth place in the last few minutes was absolutely incredible. Great entertainment.
Yeah, really solid battle. Well, we saw a lot of fantastic battles up and down throughout the course of the field. That final one, though, to have 4 cars effectively vying for fourth position there with the last handful of corners was absolutely fantastic. Great to see, the pressure being applied to a real world racer in the form of Van Gisbergen from the guys that no doubt look up to him from the sim side and being able to race and compete and do what they do best, which was fantastic. So really solid effort there. Little unfortunate for Josh, though, as a result of that contact with Tim Phelan, now going to get that 30-second penalty post-race as well.
Yep, I think everyone has crossed the line, and unfortunately, his penalty hasn't applied. So I'll let you know that Burden finished 40 seconds off the lead, so he'll finish 1 minute 10. So he will finish in 12th place, will Josh Burden. So ahead of Jesse Butler, but behind Adam Gardner. So yeah, we can go through the final results though. Nathan Hupats, 5 seconds ahead of Neil Pearson. Both those guys, good strategy, good pace. Well done. Aidan Luthwaite was a little bit further down in the opening, so he started 6th place. Maybe had the pace to bat for the win, but yeah, just didn't have track position in those opening stages. Finishes in 3rd. Shane Van Gisbergen in the end 40 seconds behind, but from last on the grid, it was a good effort. You wonder what would have been if he hadn't have had those start issues. Timothy Phelan led much of the race, ended up 39 seconds behind, a spin by himself, a contact and plenty of battling near the end. However, 5th place, nothing to frown about. Alex Court from 16th on the grid finishes in 6th. Great strategy from him. Lenny Vandenberg finishes in 7th. There's Josh Burden, who will not finish in 8th. He'll finish further down. Dominic Mellett will be promoted to 8th. Paul Wood will be promoted to 9th. And Adam Gardner will be promoted into the top 10. Then it will be Josh Burden then it'll be Jesse Butler. Then it'll be Josh Burden. Then Jordan Cullis, Nick Sanfilippo, Michael Whiting, Aaron Specchio, Stephen Bartholomew, Brenton Hawkins, Lockhart Brownlee, Chris Barnes, Shane Best, Chris Pellett, Reese Halters, Michael Yip, Thomas Wilksch, Simon Nicholson, Adrian Block, Michael Schroeder, Brett Wilson, Brendan Gregory, Mark Bretzel, Peter Morris, Paul Jackson, Phil Otto, Michael Judd, and the retirees were Tim Mulford, Simon Black, Dave Clements, Andrew Clifford, Justin Rougier, Lindsay Hobbs, Matt Farrar, and the rest of the drivers did not take the start. So, any interviews with drivers? We love interviews with drivers, of course. And we've got a few of them. Superb. So, it's fantastic. I keep on saying that. But whenever we get the race winner in for an interview, it's absolutely brilliant because we don't have to make any decisions. It's obvious who to have a chat with first. Because Nathan Hupats. Congratulations, Nathan. Superb drive. I mean, that strategy. It was a good strategy. Do you think that was the perfect way to get to the end? Because you didn't have to make too many moves on circuit. You kind of just did it in the pits and with your good pace.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I just thought I'd split the tyres in the middle, and the choice was really about how much fuel to take in the first stop. And I thought I'd probably favour track position. So I put less fuel in the first stop to try and get out ahead of Tim and Neil, who'd been battling in front of me. And yeah, I still ended up in a lot of back markers, but just managed to do consistent lap time. So I think that's what did it.
It was incredible how evenly matched you guys were in the opening stages. Did you feel as though anyone had an advantage? Were you struggling to keep up with the top two, or were you kind of just holding back? Did you feel like you were faster than those guys in the early stages?
Oh, never feel like I'm faster than anyone. But no, I was pushing hard to keep up, and all of us were making little tiny errors here and there. And I noticed it really hurt the front tyres when I came in near the end of my first stint. So that's part of the reason why I didn't want to be battling with someone when I came out in the second stint. And the tyres, the fronts held together way better in the back half of the race. So, yeah, I think strategy helped. But I presume Neil might have had some dramas because he'd dropped back a bit and I didn't see Tim at the end. So that was unfortunate because I think all three of us had race-winning pace.
Definitely. And in those closing stages, you came out of the pits, I think, about 5 seconds clear of Neil Pearson. How did you kind of keep your concentration up? Were you nervous at all? How hard were you pushing in those closing stages?
No, look, I wasn't over driving. I was just trying to do consistent laps and try and hit 141 lap time and just watch the gap. I was a bit surprised to come out that far in front of Neil. I really thought he would have been in front of me, so I can only presume something happened. But he drove really well. There was pressure all the way to the end, so I just had to keep pushing. But really, really happy to get the win for Fusion.
And of course, 6 rounds into the championship. Now, how would you assess your championship so far? And are you vying for the championship, perhaps?
I wasn't. I missed the first few rounds. I think I've only raced 3 races. I think this might be round 6.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've only done half the rounds, and I'm really just entering for a bit of fun, I think, because I know I'll miss a few more down the track. So, yeah, the other thing was I didn't want to get in the way of anyone else who was really fighting for a championship. So I was just trying to keep it safe.
Well, certainly fantastic to see you out on track whenever we can, Nathan. And before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, a big shout out to Fusion Sim Racing. Great team to race for, great bunch of blokes. We did the Bathurst 12-hour overnight, so Josh and I were a little bit weary from that and had a great result there too. So also like to thank our sponsors, Eclipse Signage, Dripping Paint Graphics, and Daryl Carter Plastering.
Well, thanks for having an interview with us, Nathan, and best of luck for the next round of the championship.
Great. Thanks, fellas. Thanks for the great job you do too.
So that was race winner Nathan Hubhats. Well done to him. Daniel, who are we going to have a chat with next?
Well, up next we've got Neil Pearson coming home second tonight. Neil, you found yourself in a lot of great battles. First off, the run with Tim Phoeben early on, and then later on the chase for Nathan Hubhats. How was everything from your point of view, mate? Obviously, start of the race being very, very interesting.
Yeah, the start was very interesting. With Shane forgetting to grid or whatever, it bumped me up from like 5th to 3rd, and then I managed to get a really good start and into 2nd, and I was just following Timothy Phoeben, just trying to feel out, save some tyres, and just wait to get some fuel. And yeah, then about, I think, 30 minutes in, I decided to take some fuel.
Yeah, well, we kept an eye, and we saw that you were the first of those two to blink and come down the lane. Probably the big thing we noticed on a couple of the onboards that we jumped on board with you going around the lap 4 was the front tyres on the BMW, especially for Tim, maybe struggling a little bit for grip and not being able to get the car into the corner as much as possible. Was that something you were picking up there? And if so, was it things you were looking to try and utilise for a bit of an advantage?
At the start, it was very understeering. It wasn't nice to drive, but I wasn't trying to push hard. As I said, I was just trying to follow Timothy and, hopefully conserve some fuel and, have a shorter pit stop and then come out in front of him.
Yeah, definitely. And then following second round of pit stops, you managed to get yourself into a nice bit of clear air. Car seemed to hook up pretty well running through there. The lap time's very, very consistent as always. We've sort of come to expect from you now.
Yeah, I think I actually probably put my tyres on a bit late, looking back at, how the race played out. And I think that's where Nathan got a bit of time on me. I don't think he was too much earlier than me, but I think I just waited a bit too long because the tyres just held on towards like the back half of the race. The car just came alive. I was just in the zone and I could just drive it, and yeah, it was just magic.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, mate, it's been a fantastic run this season for DPR Racing. You guys are really starting to come towards the pointy end, which is great to see. We knew potential going on towards the back end of season 9, but great to see it coming on for this one. But before we let you go enjoy a second place tonight, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and a thanks to for helping you out?
Yeah, I'd like to thank AMF for the great series, and Apex. You guys do awesome broadcast. I'm probably going to go watch the race now. And then I'd like to thank Southwell Lifts and Hoist, BetMax Mechanical, BetSmart Racing Service, sorry, and just my teammates at DPR, just great bunch of guys, and yeah, good fun.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, congratulations. Look forward to catching you back out next week for round 2 of the Endurance Series, and all the best for the weekend.
Thanks, mate.
No worries. And Sam, turning back to you, mate. We've got our final interviewer for the night, Aidan Lithwaite, and we'll hand you over to him and find out how his race was.
Yes, congratulations, Aidan. You must be delighted with that podium. Take us through the starts of the race. How was those first couple of laps, and how was your first stint of the race?
Well, yeah, first part of the race wasn't too bad. I mean, I think it was Shane that didn't grid properly, so we made up a position there. I was just mostly trying to play it safe, trying to get a gap to the guys behind. Pretty standard strategy as well. Pit at the middle of the race for tyres, and then just do the splash and dash at the end.
You must be quite pleased with how the pace was coming to you near the end, because you were probably about 5 seconds off the lead within the first half an hour, and then after that you ended up about 10 seconds behind. So did you have kind of good tyre wear, did you feel?
Sideways wasn't too bad. I was anticipating for the track to be a lot hotter. The track was about 57 degrees in practice, so tyre deck wasn't too bad with the low 30s, I think it was. I got a lot of clean air as well, or a bit of clean air in the middle part of the race, which really helped towards the end. Obviously, didn't quite get to Neil in the end. I would have liked to have gotten second from him, but it is what it is.
And of course, this isn't the longest circuit in the world, and yet, of course, hosting an endurance round meant that there were lots of lapping cars. How did you find the traffic management today?
Traffic wasn't too bad. A lot of the guys that were having the blue flags usually let us pass in the back straight and the main straight. There was probably lost a couple of seconds here and there to a couple of cars. But yeah, traffic wasn't too bad, to be honest.
And how would you assess your season so far? Have you got any goals in terms of positions in the championship in the next few races of the season?
I'd like to go for the championship win, to be honest. I mean, I think everybody here wants to do that at some point. Yeah, like I said, I would like to have beaten Neil to get a few points on him, but yeah, I'd like to go for the championship, and let's see what happens. Hopefully we can get a good result at the Glen.
I certainly wish you the best of luck for that, Aidan. Before we let you go, is there any shout-outs you'd like to give to anyone?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to all the guys at RSR Esports, including our sponsors, which include the Butt Kicker, Formula Hyper Soft News, JL Designs, as well as the Brutzy Racewear, G Performance, and Rosso Sim. Those guys all do great work behind the scenes.
Thanks for having a chat with us, Aidan, and yeah, best of luck for Watkins in 1 week's time.
Cool, no worries, thank you.
So that was Aidan Luthwaite, of course, third place in today's race. So yeah, Daniel, I didn't know that the next round of the championship was Watkins Glen, but the next round of the championship is, I found out, is Watkins Glen. So that's an awesome track. I mean, everyone likes that place, particularly in these GTE cars. I think back to the standard format as well, just 45 minutes for that one. I'm really looking forward to that one. As long as we get to the first lap unscathed, I think we could see a really action-packed event there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Watkins Glen in its design really promotes itself to a lot of great racing. Obviously, you see it in the real world. IMSA GT classes there have fantastic racing. And again, likewise here in the AMF series. It'll be the classic boot layout, second of our endurance series as well. So all the drivers still going in the running to fight with the for the $300 gift cards that are being put up from Simfinity, which is, you know, we mentioned that through the broadcast. Great from their point of view to be able to put that up for the drivers. But no, I think the racing will be absolutely fantastic. We may see a little bit of carnage on the run down into one. It is a very tight 90 degree with a little bit of camber, so the guys really try and slingshot around there to get the good run up through the hill and utilize the toe the best they can. But once they get through that and everyone settles down, I think the racing will be just as good as what we saw tonight, if not better.
Yeah, 90 minutes as well around that place. A few endurance races, fantastic for us to see that in the series. So big thanks to Simfinity, of course. Abruzzi Racewear, and also Race Management Service for making this series possible. Thanks to all the organisers, of course, as well. They don't need any thanks. They know who all the work that they do. So big thanks to them. Hopefully, and big thanks to all our viewers. Hopefully you've enjoyed this podcast. If you have, please leave a like on it. Give a subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network. We've got loads of other series, of course, coming up, including some World Championship series. And of course, if you wouldn't mind, please do check out Apex Racing TV as well, because we also broadcast many similar events, and you can hear our fantastic voices more common if you subscribe to that as well. So we certainly do recommend it. But thanks for tuning in, and from me, from Daniel, and from Scott, we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.